Hello, I'm Candace Gottlieb Clark. I am the founder and CEO of Dynamic Team Solutions and the author of the book Find, Fix, Fill Your Leadership Gap. And what I'd like to talk about right now is how to have a difficult conversation. This is one of the most requested things people ask me about, and I've created tutorials and done other things, but I've never created a mini video to teach this. So in having a difficult conversation, there is a before, a during, and an after, and I'm going to cover each of those three. But I want to reference what I'm talking about. A difficult conversation can be a disciplinary issue. It can be a problem that's been going on, and this is your first time addressing it, but it's been going on for a while. It can even be something that's very severe and you don't yet know what's going to happen, but you need to caution the person on the problems that their behavior is causing. And initially, it's really important to have a mindset that I talked about in a different segment called Vindicate, Not Villainize. So if you aren't familiar with that, it simply means look for the best in people. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. I do have other videos on Vindicate, Not Villainize that would be helpful. And it is a concept I speak of largely in my book as well. But when you're dealing with a difficult conversation, the before piece is how you set up that conversation to occur. And I'm going to give you just bullet points on these so we can get through the whole thing. So the bullet points of this are: you want to invite that person to a conversation. You can set the day and time. If it even is with somebody above you, you can request the day and time, and you give them at least a smidgen of an understanding of what the conversation will be about. So it might be that it's a disciplinary issue because of some behavior on the team. And you can say, let's call our person John. John, we're going to need to talk, or I need to talk with you about some team-related issues that are occurring. I'd like to meet with you on Friday at 2:30. I'd like us to schedule an hour for this meeting. Something as simple as that. And it may be more of a negotiation of the date and time. That's unimportant. The important thing is letting them know at least a smidgen so they are prepared and are not wondering what this is about. You do want them to come prepared, but you don't want them to know everything. That's the point of the meeting. Another part is that you want to schedule this for a minimum of 30 minutes. No matter how small the issue seems, 30 minutes or more is what you're shooting for. And that is because you want to establish the importance of the conversation. This is not a flyby. This is a conversation. Two, I'm going to restate the word I just said. It is a conversation. This is not we're disciplining you and we're done. It is a conversation. It is a dialogue, and that establishes that there's some time involved in it. And finally, it demonstrates the importance is that there's this amount of time needing to be set aside. I said an hour because the broader the issue, the more time you want to set to it. 30 minutes can often be sufficient. If you think it's going to take 15, set it for 30. If you think it's going to take 30, set it for 60. It's okay to end early. No one minds a meeting ending early. Having the time to complete the meeting is essential. The location, this should be in best opportunities face-to-face, ideally in-person face-to-face. Secondarily, I would say Zoom face-to-face. Third, telephone. Do not do it in any other manner than one of those three. Text, email is not appropriate. It is not a conversation when it is only one person communicating. So the during. When you have this meeting, and again, I understand it's uncomfortable for the person giving this information. That's often why I call it a difficult conversation. It's difficult for the person giving it, maybe more so than the person receiving it. And what you want to do is get to the point quickly. So one or at most two sentences of connecting to that person. So it might say something as simple as, "Thank you, John, for coming to my office. I know your schedule is really busy." 2 sentences. You want to cut to the chase. They want to know. It is uncomfortable for them to come to you for this meeting or this conversation, as you might call it. You want to cut right into business. But again, get in that place of vindicate, not villainize, good mindset, positive mindset, and that will help you carry forward with the other parts of what you do. So when you bring it up, your first part of the conversation after the initial greeting is to very simply say, the facts of what's going on. So, John, on the team, there have been numerous complaints about your stonewalling and not getting work done on time. It's creating friction on the team. There have been complaints, and this is something we need to make sure we address. Then you stop. You stop and you look at John and you wait for John to say something. And if John says, I don't have anything to say, you still don't let him revert back to you. You encourage him. I want to understand what you're experiencing on your side. You want to get John talking as early as possible, and this is your first opportunity, and it is essential that John speaks his piece. If he gets angry, if he gets defensive, that's not a bad sign. It means he actually cares about what you think of him, about what his team thinks of him. He wants to clear his name. So it's not bad if someone's defensive. And I want to let you know, you don't need to even respond to what John says. Unless it changes something for you, you can simply say, thank you for letting me know. Nevertheless, which is your transitional comment, and then you bring in the consequences or problems, maybe more correctly, connected with their behavior. And this should fall into two categories. What was the problem for John? How does this affect John in a bad way? And how does this affect the organization in a bad way? Don't make it how one person's affected, because if one person's affected, it's affecting a team, or it's affecting a culture, or it's affecting the organization. You want it to be broad. So it's not something where John later can come back and be angry with Allison, who made the complaint. Instead, you want to speak to, John, this is a concern for the organization. It's damaging teamwork. It's damaging morale. I believe you can be a big influence in correcting this, which is why we're meeting. And I also want to let you know, this is damaging your reputation. I know you're really a hard worker, but your reputation is being damaged when you don't work well with your team. When you speak to both the business side and the individual side, you are letting that person know it's important on both realms. They have some value in it. So they have the what's in it for me figured out, but they also understand why you as an organization care. Those are vital components. Then after you've brought those up, you say, John, what are your thoughts? And if he doesn't have any, okay, what are your ideas for a solution here? And you're getting John to speak first. Maybe John has a great idea, a great suggestion, and you need to add to it. That's fine. You can say, I have some other ideas I'd like to share. John's likely to say, sure. Or I'd like to give an idea since you're stuck, and then I'd like us to still negotiate this and get your ideas because maybe I can help you to come up with some. That's a negotiating piece, and hopefully it lends itself to a good end, or if not, to a secondary conversation where that's more fully vetted out. You follow up with that with hopefully a written correspondence. John or you can create that and send it to the other one to make sure you have full agreement, alignment, and clarity on what was decided on and discussed. That is essential. That is your documentation piece. It is not the email exchange. It is the decision-making exchange and perhaps the issue that led to it. Closing is that email and also follow-up. And maybe to close the meeting is simply to say, thank you, John, for taking the time to meet with me and for being so collaborative and helping to come up with solutions together. Now that difficult conversation wasn't so awful, hopefully. It's been actually feeling like a breath of fresh air that you could make change without it being tense or unpleasant beyond the base level that it would naturally be. The follow-up is to make sure John takes whatever next steps he needs to. That will include talking to Allison and the team, because John could tell you one thing and Allison a very different story. And that follow-up is essential to letting Allison know it mattered, but also to demonstrating to John that it mattered. If you do not do the follow-up, it suggests that that was an exercise in demonstrating your own level of professionalism, but not actually demonstrating your real level of leadership. So that's how to have a difficult conversation. I'm going to lead a second talk on how to handle it when it's maybe a more or a less significant issue, but one that's still important and needs addressing. So join me for that segment as well.